Why don't we jump right into it? First question. Um, Talk a little bit. We're talking here about the state of B2B marketing and the importance of creativity. We've heard some interesting things around salience and the Ehrenberg Bass Institute stuff and the application to B2B. I'd love to see where you're sitting right now, having done in the past 4 years, 3 years even, it was probably 2, 3 years ago, some of the most interesting brand transformation work in the entire B2B space. I think I can say that with a good degree of confidence and without just bullshitting you. That has been, I think, important and successful. I'd love to get a sense both where you are at with TIAA right now and what you think the role of brand is in B2B from your wonderful perspective.
Yeah, I thank you, Scott. I have a real point of view on this, sort of bringing, as you sort of alluded to, I feel like GE wrote the playbook on best in class B2B marketing, and really making an emotional connection
Yes.
with B2B buyers, who are humans, right? And
Mhm.
especially in our industry, both GE and TIAA, these are long sales cycles. These are, could be up to 10-year sales cycles. These are complex products and services. So it's essentially a big deal to switch your supplier to TIAA or from competitor to GE. It's an emotive decision. It's a emotional decision. And so the role of brand becomes increasingly important, and things like price, product, kind of product differentiation become kind of parity, product performance become parity, and you're really looking for a partner that you're making a career bet. You're going to do this once in your life. It's a
Yep.
decision is going to last 30 plus years because it's so entangled with the products and the services are so entangled with your company. They're big bets, and so you want a partner that you can roll with, that you
Yeah.
can walk through an ever-changing landscape, that has the same values as you. It has the same purpose, that can you can defend in a boardroom because your
Mhm.
decision makers are CTOs, CFOs, CEOs, and that can evolve with you. So you're really looking, it's kind of that's a real partnership, and that is an emotive decision, an emotional decision. And I think what's changed from when I was at GE till to now is AI. So,
Hmm.
AI is bringing everyone up to parity. It doesn't matter if you're a startup or,
Hmm.
in our case at TIAA, a company that's been around for 100 years with a robust, highly qualified marketing team. Content that used to be a premium, right?
Right.
That kind of baseline content that you need to feel like you're a big established brand and you've got content flowing through all your programs. um, is now the cost of entry is a lot cheaper.
Hmm.
So what does that's great, for a lot of people, and a lot of businesses coming into the market, but it does mean everything's going to look pretty much the same.
Yep.
And so the role of brand, uh, to really sort of differentiate your company and your products competitively in the market is going to be increasingly more important, because the baseline content is all going to be at parity pretty soon.
So I love something you said that I think is so smart and I don't know if I'd say it's counterintuitive to everyone, but is the idea that I think B2B marketers often live so in the weeds with the features and benefits of their service, the features and benefits of their product, whatever it is, that and they're so sales driven and they're so product driven, that they have a hard time being honest with themselves about how undifferentiated they are fundamentally, right? And I think people think that there's all there's all this differentiation, but I think one could argue that there's a lot less differentiation on a in many ways in B2B than in some of these big B2C companies that that we know about. And in that in that kind of environment, brand does become more of a differentiator than anything else. And
Yes.
there is a kind of cruel irony that it tends to be the place that, because of the structure of many of these organizations, gets the least attention. Um, except in some organizations that you've been working
Yeah.
with and that have done such notable work. GE, I remember back those early barbarian stuff. I mean, the train going through Germany. I mean, that stuff was iconic. And had not been done before, and the amount of
Yes.
attention it got was incredible. What do you think is the friction in organizations, and have you seen that friction that is limiting a chief brand officer or chief marketing officer from being able to um, make the kind of investment that it takes to create a salient brand?
So for me, personally, if you're hiring and you're creating space for a position of a chief brand officer, it's like you realize that friction and you want someone to come in and ease that. And so
Yeah.
my role has always been, how do you link product to brand, right?
Mhm.
Everything's brand and everything's brand and everything's performance.
Mhm.
So how do you take brand and all those, emotive differentiators in your brand, your purpose, your values, your unique point of view on the world, who you serve.
Mhm.
In the case of the brands I've worked on, TIAA and GE, that have been true and timeless for over 100 years and will be true and timeless for 100 more. How do you take all those differentiators and make sure that that is communicated all throughout your funnel and it doesn't just sit at the top? So our brand team at TIAA is integrated into the line of business marketing team, and it's everyone's responsibility. It's not just a chosen few who have a brand title. It's everyone's responsibility to ensure that the brand and our unique position is infused in everything that we do. And I've had the great privilege of working on brands that are highly emotive, have a great sort of DNA, like I say, timeless truths and values that do make it differentiated in the marketplace.
Do you think, to get that kind of organizational alignment that you have at TIAA and the obvious benefit that has to the business, how are there any ways that you have found that you're able to start? I guess presumably that alignment starts at the top, right, with the rest of your leadership team, right? So how do you create that alignment in your experience?
Actually, I would not start at the top. I mean, you've got to go in knowing that you have endorsement at the top. Yes, like I
Yep.
said, for them to even have a chief brand officer role. But like importantly, if you're in these roles, you have to start at the bottom and
Hmm.
build the story from the product out. That's what I did at TIAA. So, what are the differentiators in the product? Also, what are the barriers? Why, in our case, why aren't more people choosing lifetime income? There were
Hmm.
huge category barriers to annuities, and we started there, and then we used brand again with all of the emotive sort of resonance of brand to help unlock and overcome those barriers. So actually build the brand bottom up versus top down. I think builds you a lot of credibility and shapes your campaigns and your programming. That it doesn't feel like it's an either or, like you're off
Yeah.
doing big, sort of brand activations that aren't stitched to the business. Everything is stitched to the business. Everything is stitched to the product, and that's baked in from its concept.
That's really interesting and smart, and also probably a very powerful story to tell to those leaders once you are able to show that level of alignment. Um,
Yes. And I
so
think what's true with your offerings, God, is do that with data. Don't do it with, because I'm like the creative brand person and I've got all these magical powers. Like start with the data. So we spent 9 months of research really unpacking, like I say, the barriers to our products, why people, and that was a category, not even a company issue. That was at a category level.
mhm.
And then what is a sort of language that will help unlock some of those barriers. We started with language and messaging, not brand platform, and we sort of built up from there, and we got a lot of credibility from the top down and the bottom up into that strategy.
So you spoke a little bit about something that I think just was provocative me about this, the friction in annuities, right? And how you sort of how you took the sort of category challenges and addressed them with brand. I don't know if that's anything you could unpack in a little bit more detail, because I'm sure that just sounds like to be a fly on the wall as you were sort of
Yeah.
addressing those things.
Yes. Yeah, so the first thing is don't go into for me into a new category, a new company, and every like you said, everyone's going to tell you the products are complex, and
Mhm.
don't ever say no, they're not. We can make this easy to understand. You've really got to lean into the complexity, and yes, our job as marketers is to make that simple, consistent, repeat that.
Mhm.
So, but lean into the complexity first. So, spend a lot of time really understanding lifetime income, our flavor of that at TIAA. Like I said, that we've been in the market for over 100 years, and this came around annuities, and annuities, the barriers are they're seen as old fashioned, they're
Mhm.
hard to understand, they lock your money in. This was both at a consumer level and at a B2B level. The people who were, the plan consultants and sponsors
Mhm.
who are recommending or not our product of lifetime income to their participants, to their consumers. So at both the consumer level and like the gatekeeper, the B2B gatekeeper, there was tons of these barriers. Like I say, hard to understand, lock your money in, and yes, untrustworthy.
Mhm.
So we spent a lot of time looking at language that would be an epiphany and unlock for these B2B sort of gatekeepers. So instead of talking about lifetime income, what we basically offer is pension-like annuities, which
Mhm.
is a
Mhm.
guaranteed retirement paycheck for life. So stop
Mhm.
using the word annuity, start
Right, right, right.
using more everyday language, and you can break that down. Guaranteed means you're going to get it regularly. Retirement paycheck or monthly paycheck, it's going to be like you're used to getting a paycheck every month. When you retire, you will get income like that every
Mhm.
month. It's regular. And then for life is for as long as you live. So just using you know moving from annuities or lifetime income, like what does lifetime income mean, and using all of our marketing excellence that we know is like simple everyday language,
Yeah.
and coming up with a category term that has been adopted by the category, including our competitors now, on a monthly retirement paycheck or a
Mhm.
guaranteed retirement paycheck. That's where we started,
It
and
must
then
be very satisfying to see. I want to keep going, but it must be very satisfying to see your competitors using your
yeah,
using your language, right?
exactly. We're doing a category job, and then we're doing a TIAA job, and that's where you can put all of your uniqueness, your flavor. For us, we're a very mission driven company. We've always been on the side of our consumers for 100 years, and we'll do it for 100 more. And that's where the platform came in, and our platform is around the promises we make. So we promise guaranteed monthly retirement
Mhm.
paycheck for life. And then our tagline, our brand platform is around promises payoff. So like all of that ladders up, but we started with the product barriers, and then you ladder it up to something emotive that everyone internally can see themselves in. Obviously, you know what it's like to lock eyes with someone and make a promise. That is the TIAA differentiator. Because all of we don't have external stakeholders. All of our profit goes back to our participants that we serve, and then the payoff is that it's going to you. So promises payoff is the emotive platform, But with that came a really clear descriptor on the product that was new and category defining.
Well, it sounds like you've been on quite an amazing journey, and I will say, having knowing you and knowing you as this change took place, it has not been that long, and look at the impact you've already had. So, huge congratulations
Thank
to
you, and
you.
more to come. And I think what you're doing in this forum is getting more B2B marketers together and demystifying, right?
Totally, right?
We need more creativity, like to where we started this conversation, and more differentiation, and that absolutely comes through the role of brand. But we've got to lean into the friction, as you say, or the complexity, as I would say, and really help guide teams and
I think that's a
stakeholders
great
through
leaning into the complexities. It's actually not something I've heard, and no surprise that you have phrased it memorably and beautifully. It being what you do. But I really think that is intuitive and is a rallying cry. So, thank you very much for giving me your time. I always love
Thank
talking to you.
you.